Liar.
Liar.
The word hung in the air of the Incheon police station like smoke. Lyra sat across from Detective Park, her hands folded on the cold metal table, and did not flinch. I am not lying, she said.
Then explain
this. Detective Park slid a photograph across the table. Lyra stared down at herself, or rather, at an image of herself standing in the Min family vault at 11:47 p.m., her hand reaching into the display case, her face clearly visible in the overhead lights. Except she had never been there. Not at that time. Not like that.
This is not real.
This is not real,
This
Lyra
photograph has
said,
been altered.
her voice steady even as her
How?
heart raced. This photograph has been altered. Detective Park leaned back in his chair, skeptical. We have multiple angles, Miss Sterling. We have timestamp data. We have your access code in the security logs. Are you saying all of that has been fabricated? Yes. The detective laughed, short and humorless. By whom? Who has the resources and the motive to frame you for stealing $141 million from one of the wealthiest families in Korea? Lyra met his eyes and said the thing that would either save her or destroy her completely. The matriarch of that family. Lee Mo-ming. The room went very, very quiet. Hello besties, welcome to Afro-Korean Stories. Please like, share and subscribe. Also turn on the notification button so you won't miss out on more intense stories like this. 48 hours earlier, Lyra Sterling had been sitting in her Brooklyn Heights apartment, sunlight streaming through the windows, working on a translation contract for a tech company in San Francisco. She had been happy. She had been planning her wedding. She had been choosing between 2 shades of cream for the invitation cards, and wondering if chrysanthemums would be too much for the centerpieces, or if Ji-woo would appreciate the gesture. She had been living in a world where love was simple, and the future stretched out before her like an open road. That world had ended with a phone call at 2:17 in the morning. Miss Sterling, this is Detective Park from the Incheon Metropolitan Police Department. We have received a report that significant items have gone missing from the Min family vault. The security footage indicates you were the last person to access the vault before the items were discovered missing. We are asking you to return to Incheon immediately for questioning. Lyra had gripped the phone so tightly her knuckles went white. That's impossible. I was in the vault 2 days ago, yes. Tae-hyun asked me to check on a bracelet he wanted to give me for our engagement. I was there for maybe 10 minutes. I didn't touch anything else. Miss Sterling, I understand this is difficult, but the footage is clear. The report has been filed. I strongly advise you to cooperate. She had hung up and immediately called Tae-hyun. No answer. She called again. Voicemail. A third time. Nothing. Panic had started to spread through her chest like ice water. Cold and numbing and unstoppable. So she had called the only other person in that family she thought might help her. Sung-jin had picked up on the first ring. Lyra, what's wrong? They're saying I stole from your mother's vault, she said, and for the first time her voice cracked. They're saying I took jewels worth millions and I don't know what's happening and I can't reach Tae-hyun and I need help. There had been a long pause on the other end. Then Sung-jin had said something she would remember for the rest of her life. Stay where you are. Don't talk to anyone. Don't answer any more calls. I'm going to figure this out. And he had. Sung-jin Min had always been the quieter brother. The one who worked behind the scenes while Tae-hyun took center stage. People called him the shadow, the background player, the younger son who would never quite measure up to his brother's charisma and polish. They were wrong. Sung-jin didn't stay in the background because he lacked ambition or skill. He stayed there because he saw things other people missed. He read patterns. He understood systems. And right now, sitting in the security office of the Min Dynasty estate at 4 in the morning, he was looking at a pattern that made his blood run cold. The security footage showed Lyra entering the vault at 11:47 p.m. She moved through the space with careful, deliberate steps, went directly to the Moonstone Dynasty collection display, opened the case, and removed 3 pieces. The timestamp was clear. Her face was unmistakable. The evidence was perfect. Too perfect. Sung-jin had spent years building financial systems for Min Dynasty holdings. He understood data. He understood how numbers could lie if you knew how to make them dance. And he understood, with the cold precision of someone who had been doing this his entire career, that what he was looking at on the screen was not real. The lighting on Lyra's face was too even. The vault's overhead lights cast shadows at a specific angle. He had personally reviewed the security setup when it was installed 2 years ago, and the shadows in this footage were wrong. The timestamp font was subtly different from the other security cameras. And most damningly, the reflection in the glass of the display case didn't match Lyra's body position. It was mirrored incorrectly. Someone had edited this footage. Someone with access to the security system, access to the vault, and the resources to do it professionally. Someone like his mother. Sung-jin had pulled the raw security files from the backup server, the ones that couldn't be altered without leaving a digital trail. And there, at 3 o'clock in the morning, was Ji-woo Min. She entered the vault alone. She stayed for 40 minutes. And when she left, the 3 pieces from the Moonstone Dynasty collection were gone. Sung-jin had stared at that footage for a long time, watching his mother move through the vault with the same careful precision she brought to everything in her life. Watching her reach into the display case. Watching her pocket the jewels like she was putting away her reading glasses. Watching her destroy an innocent woman's life with the same casual efficiency she used to approve quarterly reports. His phone had buzzed. A text from Ji-woo. "Are you awake, sweetheart? We should talk about the wedding. I think it's time we canceled it, don't you?" Sung-jin had stood up, walked out of the security office, and gone to find his brother. Tae-hyun had not left his bedroom in 18 hours. Sung-jin found him sitting on the floor, back against the bed, staring at nothing. The curtains were drawn. The room was dark except for the thin strip of hallway light that fell across the carpet when Sung-jin opened the door. "Young," Sung-jin said quietly. "I need you to listen to me very carefully. Lyra didn't steal anything." Tae-hyun looked up. His face was gray, exhausted, hollowed out by grief. "How do you know?" "Because I know who did." Sung-jin stepped into the room and closed the door behind him. It was Mother. She took the jewels herself. She doctored the security footage to make it look like Lyra. "I have the raw files. I can prove it." For a long moment, Tae-hyun didn't move. He just stared at his younger brother like Sung-jin had spoken in a language he couldn't understand. Then he said very quietly, "No. Young, I've seen the evidence. I've checked it 3 times. I've had Jin-woo verify the files. It's real." "No," Tae-hyun said again, louder this time. "Don't say that. Don't you dare say that. I'm sorry, but it's the truth. Mother framed Lyra. She planned all of it." Tae-hyun stood up so fast he nearly stumbled. "Get out." "Young." I said get out. Tae-hyun's voice cracked, raw and desperate. "You're wrong. You have to be wrong. She wouldn't do that. She couldn't. She's our mother." Sung-jin stood his ground. "I know. And I wish I was wrong. But I'm not." Tae-hyun turned away, pressed his hands against his face. His shoulders started to shake. And Sung-jin, who had spent his entire life watching his older brother be strong and composed and unbreakable, watched Tae-hyun Min fall apart. Why? Tae-hyun whispered. "Why would she do this?" "Because she's afraid of losing you." Sung-jin's voice was gentle. "Because she loves you so much that she would rather destroy the woman who makes you happy than let you go." Tae-hyun let out a sound that was half laugh, half sob. "That's not love. That's... I know what it is." Sung-jin crossed the room and put his hand on his brother's shoulder. "And we're going to stop it. But I need you with me. Can you do that?" Tae-hyun wiped his face with the back of his hand, took a breath, then another. When he looked at Sung-jin again, something had changed in his expression. The devastation was still there, but underneath it was something harder. Something that looked like steel. "What do we need to do?" Sung-jin pulled out his phone and showed his brother the raw security footage. Tae-hyun watched in silence as Ji-woo Min entered the vault at 3 in the morning. Watched her take the jewels. Watched her commit the crime that would send the woman he loved to prison. When the footage ended, Tae-hyun looked at his brother and said, "We confront her. Tonight." But Ji-woo Min was not a woman who could be confronted unprepared. She had spent 40 years building an empire, navigating boardrooms full of men who underestimated her, surviving corporate wars and family feuds and the slow, grinding pressure of being a woman in a world designed to crush women who wanted power. She had not survived all of that by being careless. She had anticipated this moment. Not the specifics, perhaps. She had not known exactly when Sung-jin would find the evidence or how Tae-hyun would react. But she had known it was possible. And so she had built insurance. The insurance came in the form of a man named Marcus, a media consultant who had worked with the Min family for years. Marcus was charming, connected, and deeply in debt to people who did not accept excuses. Ji-woo had learned about his financial troubles 3 months ago. She had offered to help. Just a small loan, she had said. Nothing that would compromise their professional relationship. Marcus had accepted because he had no other choice. And now, when Sung-jin reached out to Marcus to set up a press conference exposing Ji-woo's scheme, Marcus did exactly what Ji-woo had known he would do. He agreed to help. And then he called Ji-woo and told her everything. Ji-woo sat in her study, overlooking the dark expanse of Incheon Harbor, and made a phone call to her lawyer, Kim Sang-ho. "It's time to activate the contingency," she said. "The one involving Marcus?" "Yes. Make sure the prosecutors receive the modified documents by morning. And make sure they understand that Marcus's involvement complicates the narrative significantly. This will destroy the boy's credibility," Kim said carefully. "If they try to expose you and Marcus's name comes up as part of the theft." "I know what it will do," Ji-woo interrupted. "That's why we're doing it." She hung up and returned to her tea. Outside, the city glittered like scattered diamonds. Beautiful. Cold. Hers. She thought about Lyra, about the way the girl had smiled at her the first time they met, open and unguarded and so painfully sincere. She thought about the way Tae-hyun looked at Lyra, like she was the first real thing he had ever touched. And she thought about the moment, 3 years ago, when she had watched her eldest son laugh at something Lyra said, really laugh, the kind of laugh that came from somewhere deep and unguarded. Ji-woo had felt something crack open in her chest that night. Not warmth. Fear. The fear that she was losing him. That this woman, this outsider, this person who did not understand what it meant to be a Min, was going to take her son away from everything she had built for him. So she had smiled. She had been polite. She had eaten the soup Lyra cooked, and accepted the chrysanthemums, and played the role of the warming mother-in-law. And all the while, she had been planning this. The theft. The frame. The systematic destruction of Lyra Sterling's credibility and freedom. Because Ji-woo Min did not lose. Not to anyone. Not ever. The next morning, Sung-jin and Tae-hyun sent the evidence package to the press. They sent it to the Incheon Herald, 2 national news outlets, and directly to the prosecutor's office. The package contained the raw security footage showing Ji-woo in the vault at 3 in the morning. It contained access logs proving she had used her own code. It contained a written statement from Sora, the security technician who had edited the footage at Ji-woo's request, believing it was a routine security drill. It contained storage facility records from Gwangju showing the jewels had been moved to a location registered under a Min Dynasty shell company. The evidence was comprehensive. It was damning. It was unassailable. For 45 seconds after they sent it, nothing happened. Then Sung-jin's phone rang. It was Marcus. "We have a problem," Marcus said, his voice tight with panic. "Someone just sent a counterfile to every outlet you contacted. A file that contains evidence linking me to the theft. My access codes. My name on transfer documents. Everything." Sung-jin's grip on the phone tightened. "That's not possible. You weren't involved." "I know I wasn't involved." Marcus's voice rose. "But the documents say otherwise and they're very, very convincing. Sung-jin, I'm about to be arrested. They think I helped steal the jewels. They think you and I conspired together to frame your mother." The line went dead. Sung-jin stared at his phone. Across the room, Tae-hyun was watching him with an expression of growing dread. "What happened?" "She has a countermove," Sung-jin said slowly. "She compromised Marcus. Made it look like he was involved in the theft. Now when we try to expose her, it looks like we're working with a criminal to frame our own mother. Can we prove Marcus is innocent? Maybe. Eventually. But by the time we do, the narrative will be set. People will think we're lying. They'll think we invented evidence to protect Lyra." Tae-hyun sat down heavily. She planned for this. She knew we would find the truth. She knew we would try to expose her. And she built a trap inside the trap. Yes. Sung-jin looked at his brother. So what do we do now? Tae-hyun was quiet for a long time. Then he said, we go to her. Directly. No press. No lawyers. No intermediaries. Just us. And we make her choose. Choose what? Her sons or her pride? They found Ji-woo in her study at 10 o'clock that night. She was sitting by the window, silk robe pooling around her, a cup of tea steaming on the table beside her. She looked up when they entered and smiled. Boys, you look tired. Sit down. Neither of them sat. Tae-hyun stopped in the middle of the room. Sung-jin stood beside him. For a long moment no one spoke. Then Tae-hyun said, his voice raw and breaking, why? Ji-woo set down her teacup carefully. Why what, darling? Don't do that. Don't pretend you don't know what I'm asking. Tae-hyun's hands were shaking. Why did you do this? Why did you frame Lyra? Why did you try to destroy the woman I love? Ji-woo looked at her eldest son with something that might have been sadness, or might have been disappointment. Because I love you, she said simply. Because you're my son and because that woman, however lovely she may be, was going to take you away from me. From this family. From everything we've built. She was never going to take me away from you, Tae-hyun said. His voice cracked. I would have brought her into this family. I would have made room for both of you. But you didn't trust that. You didn't trust me. Trust has nothing to do with it. Ji-woo stood, moved toward him. You don't understand what it's like to build something from nothing. To fight for every inch of ground. To watch your husband die and know that if you show even a moment of weakness, everything will collapse. I have spent my entire life making sure this family survives. Making sure you survive. And I will not let anyone threaten that. Not even her. She's not a threat, Tae-hyun whispered. She's the best thing that ever happened to me. Then you're a fool. The words landed like a slap. Tae-hyun stepped back, his face going white. Sung-jin moved forward, putting himself between his mother and his brother. Enough, Sung-jin said quietly. Mother, it's over. We have the evidence. We know what you did. The police know. The prosecutors know. You can keep fighting, keep manipulating, keep destroying people to maintain control. Or you can stop. You can drop the charges against Lyra. You can admit what you did. And you can let your sons live their own lives. Ji-woo looked at Sung-jin with an expression he couldn't quite read. Pride maybe. Or recognition. The look of a woman seeing herself reflected in someone she had created. You sound so much like me, she said softly. More than Tae-hyun ever did. You understand power. You understand what it takes to win. I understand what it costs, Sung-jin said. And I'm not willing to pay it. Not anymore. Ji-woo was silent for a long moment. Then she turned back to the window, looking out at the dark harbor. The charges will not be dropped, she said finally. Not until Lyra agrees to leave. Permanently. Leave Korea. Leave Tae-hyun. Disappear. No. Tae-hyun's voice was stronger now. That's not going to happen. Then she goes to prison, Ji-woo said, not turning around. Because I will make sure every piece of evidence points to her. I will make sure every prosecutor believes she's guilty. I will use every resource I have to destroy her. And you will watch it happen. And maybe then you'll understand what I've been trying to teach you your entire life. That family is the only thing that matters. That everything else, love, happiness, freedom, all of it is secondary to protecting the people who share your blood. Tae-hyun looked at his mother's back, at the rigid line of her shoulders, at the woman who had raised him and was now threatening to destroy the person he loved most in the world. And something inside him broke. Not the way it had broken before, with grief and confusion. This was different. This was final. Then I'm done, he said quietly. Ji-woo turned. What? I'm done with this family. I'm done with Min dynasty. I'm done with you. Tae-hyun's voice was steady now, clear and cold. If you send Lyra to prison, if you do this you lose me. Permanently. I will walk away from everything. The company. The estate. My inheritance. All of it. And you will never see me again. The room went very, very still. Ji-woo stared at her son like he had struck her. You don't mean that. I do, Tae-hyun said. And I think you know I do. For the first time in the entire conversation, Ji-woo's composure cracked. Just slightly. Just enough to see the fear underneath. No. He held up his hand. You made your choice. You chose control over trust. You chose pride over love. Now I'm making mine. And I choose her. He turned and walked out of the study. The door closed behind him with a quiet, final click. Sung-jin stood in the silence that followed, watching his mother. She looked smaller suddenly. Older. Less like the indomitable force that had shaped his entire life, and more like a woman who had just lost something she could never get back. You should know, Sung-jin said quietly, that I'm with him. If you destroy Lyra, you lose both of us. Ji-woo didn't respond. She just stood by the window, looking out at the harbor, her reflection ghostly in the dark glass. Sung-jin left her there. Listen, besties, if you're still watching this, if your heart is racing right now, if you need to know what happens next, you need to hit that subscribe button. Because the people who aren't subscribed, they're going to miss the moment when everything changes. They're going to miss the confrontation that tears this family apart. They're going to wake up tomorrow and see this video in their recommendations and realize they missed the most intense part of the story. Don't be that person. Subscribe right now. Turn on notifications. Because this story is only getting darker. And the twist that's coming will leave you speechless. Lyra heard about the standoff from Sung-jin, who called her at 2 a.m. Brooklyn time. It didn't work, he said without preamble. The confrontation. She's not backing down. She threatened to send you to prison unless you leave Korea and leave Tae-hyun permanently. Lyra sat up in bed, her heart pounding. What did Tae-hyun say? He told her he would walk away from everything if she did it. He chose you, Lyra. Completely. Without hesitation. Lyra closed her eyes, felt tears burning behind her eyelids. That's not a choice he should have to make. No, Sung-jin agreed. It's not. Which is why I'm calling. I need you to stay in New York. Do not come to Korea. It's not safe. My mother has more moves we haven't seen yet. And if you're here, you're vulnerable. I'm already vulnerable, Lyra said. I'm accused of a crime I didn't commit. There's a warrant out for my arrest. Staying in New York doesn't make me safe. It just makes me a fugitive. Lyra. I'm coming, she said. I'm booking the next flight. I'll be there by tomorrow morning. That's a terrible idea. Maybe, Lyra said. But I'm not going to hide in Brooklyn while the man I love tears his family apart trying to protect me. I'm not going to let Ji-woo win by making me invisible. If she wants to destroy me, she's going to have to do it while looking me in the eye. There was a long pause on the other end. Then Sung-jin said something that surprised her. Okay. When you land, call me. I'll pick you up. You don't have to do that. I know, Sung-jin said. And then quieter. But I want to. He hung up before she could ask what he meant. The flight to Incheon was 13 hours long, and Lyra spent every minute of it thinking. Not about the charges or the evidence or the legal nightmare waiting for her on the other side of the Pacific. She thought about her mother. About the story Lyra Sterling had told her when she was 12 years old. Sitting at the kitchen table in their Philadelphia row house, eating groundnut soup, and listening to her mother's voice rise and fall with the rhythm of a born storyteller. There was once a woman in my village, Amma had said, who was accused of stealing from a wealthy merchant. The accusation was false. Everyone knew it was false. But the merchant was powerful and the woman was not. And in those days, power mattered more than truth. What did she do? Lyra had asked. She went to the market, Amma said. The same market where the accusation had been made. And she stood in the center where everyone could see her. And she told her story. Not the version the merchant wanted people to believe. Her story. The true one. She told it so well, so clearly, with such absolute conviction, that by the time she finished, the merchant who had accused her was the one who was ashamed. Did it work? She was never charged. The merchant lost face. And the woman became known as one of the greatest storytellers in the region. Amma had reached across the table and taken Lyra's hand. Remember this, my daughter. Truth is not always enough. But truth told well, truth told bravely, truth told in your own voice. That is a weapon no one can take from you. Lyra looked out the airplane window at the dark ocean below, and made a decision. She was going to tell her story. Not to the police. Not to lawyers. Not to prosecutors who had already decided she was guilty. She was going to tell it to Ji-woo Min directly. In person. With all the courage her mother had taught her, and all the love she felt for Tae-hyun burning in her chest like a flame. And she was going to make Ji-woo listen. Sung-jin picked her up at Incheon International Airport at 6:43 in the morning. Lyra came through arrivals with a single carry-on bag and eyes that hadn't slept in 2 days. She saw him standing by the car, leaning against the door, and something in her chest loosened. She had known Sung-jin for 3 years. Not well. Not the way she knew Tae-hyun, but well enough to have watched him at family dinners, listened to him talk about financial markets with quiet passion, seen the way he moved through rooms like water, adaptable and observant, and almost invisible until you learned to look for him. She had always thought he was kind. Now watching him straighten up and move toward her, she thought he might be brave too. "You came," he said. "I told you I would." "I know. I hoped you wouldn't." He took her bag. "It's still not too late to turn around." "Yes it is," Lyra said. "It's been too late since the moment your mother decided to do this. Now we finish it." They got in the car. Sung-jin drove in silence for a while, navigating the early morning traffic leaving the airport. Finally he said, "Tae-hyun doesn't know you're here. I didn't tell him you were coming." "Why not?" "Because he would have tried to stop you. He's not in good shape, Lyra. The confrontation with our mother broke something in him." "I know," Lyra said quietly. "I could hear it when we talked on the phone." "He loves you so much," Sung-jin said. And there was something in his voice that made Lyra look at him. Something she couldn't quite identify. "I've never seen him like this with anyone. You made him, I don't know. Real. More himself. Less of what he thought he was supposed to be." "He did the same for me," Lyra said. They drove in silence for another few minutes. Then Lyra asked, "What about you? Are you okay?" Sung-jin's hands tightened on the steering wheel. "I'm fine. Sung-jin." "I'm fine," he repeated, but his voice was tight, controlled in a way that suggested he was holding something back. "It's just she's my mother. She raised me. She taught me everything I know about business, about strategy, about how to read people and systems and numbers. And I keep thinking about all the things she taught me, all the lessons, and wondering how many of them were about winning at any cost. How many of them were about control instead of love." "Love and control aren't the same thing," Lyra said. "I know that now." He glanced at her. "But I don't think she does. I think she genuinely believes that what she's doing is protecting us. That destroying you is an act of love." "Maybe it is," Lyra said. "In her mind. But that doesn't make it right." They pulled up to the Min Dynasty estate 20 minutes later. The sun was rising over Incheon Harbor, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold. The estate looked exactly as Lyra remembered it. Massive. Beautiful. Imposing. A fortress built to keep the world out. Tae-hyun was standing at the front door when they arrived. He saw Lyra step out of the car and something happened to his face. Something that made Sung-jin look away because it was too raw, too private, too much. Tae-hyun crossed the distance between them in 4 strides and pulled Lyra into his arms and held her like she was the only real thing in the world. "You shouldn't have come," he whispered into her hair. "I know," she said. "But I'm here anyway." He pulled back, took her face in his hands. "Lyra, it's not safe. My mother, she's not done. She has more moves planned. If you're here, if she sees you, I don't know what she'll do." "I know what she'll do," Lyra said. "She'll try to break me. She'll try to make me run. She'll try to convince me that I don't belong here, and that loving you is not worth the fight." She reached up and covered his hands with hers. "And I'm going to show her she's wrong." "How?" "By telling her the truth. Not the version she invented. My truth. The real one. And I'm going to make her listen." Tae-hyun stared at her. Then he kissed her, soft and desperate and full of a love that had survived 3 years and an ocean and a mother's attempt to destroy it. When he pulled back, his eyes were bright with tears. "I don't deserve you," he said. "You're right," Lyra said and smiled. But you're stuck with me anyway. Sung-jin cleared his throat from where he stood by the car. If you're going to do this, we should do it now, before she has time to prepare. Lyra nodded. She turned to look at the estate, at the massive doors, at the windows that reflected the morning sun like shields. Somewhere inside, Jiwoo Min was drinking tea and planning her next move. Somewhere inside, a woman who had spent her entire life winning was about to face someone who didn't care about winning, who cared only about truth. Let's go, Lyra said. If you're still here, following Lyra's journey and the story of these two brothers, and you're curious about what's coming next, please hit that subscribe button. I'm putting my heart and soul into this story, and your support truly means the world to me. Drop a comment sharing your predictions, turn on notifications and stay tuned. You won't want to miss what's next. If you don't subscribe though, you'll miss the most thrilling part of this story. Don't let that happen.